Good evening, everyone. I hope that you are doing well, and I want to thank you for joining us tonight. Do you like thunderstorms? Behind me on my computer, maybe you can hear some of that. You can see the flashes of lightning. This is a YouTube video of a thunderstorm, and I hope that you can see a little bit of this lightning or hear some of the thunder. I'm reminded, and I want you to go ahead and turn your Bibles, if you will, to the book of Psalm chapter 29. Psalm chapter 29. I'm reminded of when I was a kid. As I read through this psalm and studied this psalm, I saw it originally as just a psalm of praise. But the more I looked into it, it seems that most people feel like this is a time when David is witnessing a thunderstorm approaching, being in the midst of the thunderstorm, and then watching the thunderstorm go off in the distance. And in that, he describes the power of God. And it's interesting that as he views this thunderstorm, I start thinking about how we view thunderstorms today. Many times we look at a thunderstorm and we see that from the view of a meteorologist or the inconvenience that it brings us. But there's beauty in the thunderstorm. When that thunderstorm rolls in, if we have the right perspective or look from the right perspective, we can see the power and majesty of God. I'm reminded as a kid, when I was growing up, thunderstorm would roll in and the power would go out, and my sister and I, my brother was older, but my sister and I, we would be like, oh no, grab the flashlight, what's going on, we're in the dark. And my parents would calmly say, all right kids, let's come out here on the front porch. And we had this covered front porch, the power would be out, and you know what we would do? We would sit there and watch the storm, and we would talk about things. And you know, there's often times in life where I miss those opportunities. I miss those opportunities just to get away. We didn't have many electronic devices then, but we had a TV and we had things like that, and radio and music and that kind of stuff. Well, sometimes the power needs to go out, and we need to witness and see the power and the majesty and the glory of God and praise Him in the midst of the thunderstorm. And just pause. The psalmist would say in Psalm 46, be still and know that I am God. And sometimes we need to be reminded of that. And sometimes we need to be, call the world, call people to remember and to recognize and to notice the power of God. So often in our lives, we are so busy that we fail to pause sometimes, and we get caught up in this rat race of life. I do so often, and it's those times when we need those times, just be still and know that He is God. And it doesn't always have to be in a storm, but I want you to think about a storm as we think about Psalm 29. And notice David writing these things from the perspective of viewing this storm and witnessing the power of God. And so I want you to notice, and I'm going to keep this video rolling in the background, because I want you to keep this idea of this storm on your mind. And I want you to notice in Psalm 29, and I want you to notice this power of God. And so verses 1 and 2 is kind of this call to worship. It's the storm is approaching. Verses 3 through 9, we'll notice him witnessing the storm and seeing God in the storm. And then verses 10 and 11, the storm is going off. And in all of this, the call, the witness of the approaching of the storm, in the midst of the storm, and as the storm is going off, David gives glory and praise and honor to God. So I want you to notice Psalm 29. He gives this call to worship. Give unto the Lord, O you mighty ones. Give unto the Lord glory and strength. Give unto the Lord the glory due his name. Worship the Lord in the beauty of holiness. Give unto the Lord the glory and strength. Give unto the Lord the glory due his name. Of all things, of all people, of all beings, God is the one that is worthy to receive glory. You know, humans, they rise to glory and fall from glory. Humans can be lifted up, but then they can fail us. Even things that we've created can be glorified, but then they too fail us. But God is called and is the only one that is worthy and that can be really due glory. He is the one that calls us to worship, or in this storm, as he sees this storm approaching, he realizes the power and the majesty and the glory due God Almighty and the holiness. And he calls us to witness this and worship God. Worship God in his holiness, the beauty of holiness. I'm reminded of what the New Testament writer Peter says in 1 Peter chapter 1, verses 15 and 16. But as he who called you is holy, David says, witness the holiness of God. Worship God in the beauty of holiness. And Peter says, as he who has called you is holy, you also be holy in all your conduct. So as we see these storms approaching, we realize the power and the majesty and the glory of God. And we worship God in the beauty of holiness. And folks, we do that really, Peter says, in our daily lives. In our daily lives, we can also remind people of the power and the glory and the majesty and the holiness of God through our holy conduct. And he goes on and he says, because it is written, be holy, for I am holy. And so let's remember that as we think about David witnessing this storm. And I want to challenge us the next time we have the opportunity to witness a storm. Of course, take cover. Especially if it's tornadic, you take cover. But if it's just a thunderstorm, take cover. But notice as the storm approaches, the power and majesty and glory and holiness of God. But notice what he says next as the storm is on him. The voice of the Lord is over the waters, over the sea, over the rivers, over the rain. The glory of God thunders. The Lord is over many waters. The voice of the Lord is powerful. The voice of the Lord is full of majesty. The voice of the Lord breaks the cedars. Yes, the Lord splinters the cedars of Lebanon. He makes them also skip like a calf. Lebanon and Syrian like a young wild ox. And I'm reminded that he's talking about the voice of the Lord. The Hebrew writer says the word of God is the sword of the Spirit. It's powerful. It's so powerful it can discern the thoughts and intents of the heart. God's word is powerful. And as the storm is on David, he says the voice of the Lord is powerful. I hear it in the thunder. I hear it in the lightning. It's over the waters. It's over the forest. It causes just that power can level a forest. The winds, have you ever seen those kind of winds? Remember when those hurricane force winds came through our area several years ago and it flattened trees? That's the power of God. And people need to take note of the glory and the majesty and the power of God that can be seen in a storm. Verse 7 rather. The voice of the Lord divides the flames of fire. See the power of lightning? You can see the power of lightning in the storm as it lights up the sky. Rocks and trees can be hewn out because of the power of this lightning. The voice of the Lord shakes the wilderness in the thundering and the lightning. The voice of the Lord makes the deer give birth and strips the forest bare. And in his temple everyone says, glory. Whether in heaven, in the house of heaven, or in the creation of God on earth, it all bows and says, glory. Glory to God in the power of the storm. Glory to God in the beauty of the sun like we have today. All that we see should remind us of the glory and the majesty and the power of God, but especially the storm. And then as David sees the storm rolling off, notice his words. The Lord sat enthroned at the flood. You remember the great flood? Back in the book of Genesis, I read that this word flood is only found one other time in the Old Testament, and that's in reference to the great flood in the book of Genesis. The Lord sat enthroned at the flood. The Lord was over the flood, and the Lord sits as King forever. And the Lord wants to be Lord over our life, because the reality is He's ultimately in control of everything anyway. And so because of that, it calls out to us to make Him King of our life, to place Him as King of our life. And maybe you're at a period where God's not in your life, and you witness the power and the majesty and the glory of God in the power of a storm. And it reminds us that God's over things, just like He was the flood. God was over Noah and his family. And the Lord will give strength to His people. The Lord will bless His people with peace. And you see, that's what reminds us, that's what He's reminding us of the great flood, that God sat enthroned over the flood. He dealt with the wicked, the people who chose not to follow Him, the people who rebelled against Him, the people who would not call on Him. But to Noah and his family, and to us today, through Jesus Christ being added to the New Testament church, God will be over His people, and He will give them strength, and He will give them peace. He will give them the strength to make it through the storm. He will give them strength to make it through the things that the wickedness of the world bring on them. And He will give them peace. Not peace from pain and suffering in this life, not necessarily a peace through that, but not necessarily a peace from the storms of life or the things that the wicked world brings on us, but a peace that passes all understanding, a peace that realizes, like the Hebrew people in Hebrews chapter 11, that can look beyond the presence and see the reward in heaven. That's what God will bring to His people. In the midst of a storm, David sees the power and majesty and glory of God, and we can too, and be reminded that God is in control. In all the craziness of life, God is in control. And so we need to, like the psalmist says in Psalm 46, be still and know that He is God. And for those who will place that faith, belief, and trust in Him and be obedient to Him and His Word, He will give strength and peace. I hope that this psalm has been a help to you and an encouragement to you tonight. And I hope that you will look through it and read it. And I hope the next time you see a storm, you will see the power and majesty and glory due God in the beauty of His holiness, and will worship God as you witness that storm. But also be reminded to worship God with the saints. And it's when we come together, it's His presence that we're reminded of. It's His presence that we're reminded to bring glory to. It's His presence that fills us with awe and fills us with excitement and enthusiasm, that draws us to Him in worship. If we can help you anyway today, if we can pray for you, if we can help you and assist you in Bible study, or if we can help you and assist you in giving your life to the Lord, please don't hesitate. But give us a call. Look us up on our website, SavannahChurchOfChrist.com. You can find our number there. Give us a call. We'd love to pray with you and help you any way we can. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. God bless.